Ladies and gentlemen, I am so glad that I get to bring you this amazing young woman of God. She's a podcaster, she's a creative, and she's going to share really how she got into this entire area where she didn't necessarily, no one grows up saying, I'm going to be a podcaster when I grow up, but she found her way into this area. So I really can't wait for you to hear her story. Welcome, Nye, aka Call Me Coffee. Welcome to the God and Gig Show.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
Pleasure to have you. And we're
Yeah.
just laughing already that the vibes are already silly. So if you
Yeah.
guys hear us giggling throughout this interview, I apologize. But you've been in this as I have in the podcasting
hmm
world for a while now. We talked a little earlier before we got done this recording about how we're navigating this community. It's just become like a big part of our lives. And so,
hmm
especially when I heard what your podcast is about, like I was like, okay, we're part of the same tribe. We already felt that right away. But many people are meeting you for the first time. So this is a question most of us podcasters, we know we got to do, right? So you know it's coming probably. The first
hmm
30 seconds, you got to do your elevator pitch. You got to tell them pretty much the the basis of who you are in that one sentence, which is totally impossible. But just if
hmm
people had to learn something about you for the first time, what are those few things you want them to know about you?
Well, yeah, definitely. In addition to be a podcaster of Coffee Sips Tea, I'm also a holistic creative coach. My coaching practice has sessions, and it's to help unlock kingdom creativity through the holistic approach. And that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I love going for long walks. I love traveling. I love meeting new people and doing what I do. It's fun. If
That's
it's not fun, it's not worth doing.
all
Really.
right. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love that
Yeah.
part. And I really
Mm-hmm.
was so curious because as soon as you said holistic creative coach, that's honestly what
Mm-hmm.
caught my attention. Going into so many areas of whether you're an artist, creative, entrepreneur, solopreneur, like there's a billion
Yeah.
buzzwords now, right?
Right.
But the word holistic to me says a lot more about you even than necessarily the creative part. So tell me, where does that word or what does that word mean to you and why is it a part of your coaching or really just a part of who you are? Like why did you want to make sure that's included?
I wanted to make sure that was included. That's a really good question. Because holistic to me, it's just showing up as your whole self, embracing your mind, your body, your spiritual aspect of you. It's this metaphysical, part of everything. I believe in holistic spirituality. I don't believe in churchianity or going to the pews
Mm.
every Sunday only, right? That's like conditional. So when you are showing up holy with a W next to holistic, right? So you're showing up as your whole self, fully integrated in your faith, your spiritual fitness. It's an act of worship to God. He says that He would that we would prosper even as our soul prospers. I think it's in 3 John and 2. Don't quote me on that. I need to read my Bible more, obviously, but
You're good.
you know, so that's holistic in a nutshell. It's fully integrating your faith, your fitness life, and creativity, kingdom creativity. God is a creator. And when he made us, we became animated when he breathed the breath of life into us. And then and then man became a living soul. That's
Mm.
in Genesis 2 and 7, right? So that's what we are. We are living, breathing souls, and then we're having a human experience, and we show up. We're being. We're not our doings. We're not what we do. We just be, and Father God does the rest. So you're just showing up, being present. That's all.
That's all. That's a
hmm
mouthful, and it's hard to do. I want to ask because now people are
Yeah.
learning again. Okay, she's a holistic creative coach. I want to
hmm
ask you, where did this passion come from in you? Was it your childhood that was it something in terms of the way that you were brought up that
Mhm.
you said, oh, I want to be helping people? Like, where did this desire to help other people come from? That part of it.
Yeah. Well, it couldn't have been my childhood because even though I grew up in the church, I grew up in churchianity. I did not grow up in like having a relationship with God. I grew up in religion, right? Rituals, routines. And so God had to break me out of that. And he was just saying to me, I remember one day saying, he was saying to me, acknowledge me in all things and I will direct your paths. And I was saying to myself, I'm like, that sounds like Proverbs chapter 3, but I wasn't sure because at that time I wasn't really reading the Bible like that. So I ran home excited. And sure enough, when I turned the Bible to Proverbs chapter 3, it said that. Um, and I was just like, oh, wow, like God is talking to me. I'm hearing him. So it really came out of a desire for something I felt lacking in my creative life. I have a background in acting and singing, entertaining and all of that. But I feel like what was missing was an actual relationship to him where we're having a dialogue and I'm not just praying and then just wishing, for something in return. I just wanted to just show up and just say, look, I'm grateful for you. I just want to praise you. I really want to worship you in spirit and in truth, have that John 4:24 life. So it came out of initially just wanting to help myself connect better
Okay.
to my art, as an artist, I'm saying. So wanting to connect to myself as an artist, as a worshiper, and then it became something more. I was just like, okay, Father God's doing something more here, and it was helping other people. And so even though it started off as fun, it became more and more apparent like I'm definitely doing faith-based coaching. God is showing up in these sessions. People were saying stuff like, I feel healed. I don't know what it is. I feel an upliftment in my spirit. And I could not understand what was happening because I just thought we were just humming and hawing. I just thought we were singing some notes. That's what I thought. I thought we were just going over some scenes, but apparently not. God was showing up in these sessions and he was just telling me, like, I want you to be a coach. That's really what I want you to do. And I would listen, I would be obedient. And so it was really just a matter of me saying yes to God and partnering with him. And out of that, develop people receiving that help, you know, that
That's awesome.
support really. Yeah. No, don't. You okay, brother? You okay?
For people to, yeah, thank you. No, I'm trying to clear my throat
Yeah.
before I didn't want to the cough and
Okay.
interrupt the flow. What I
That's
was
the.
really thinking about when you said
Mhm.
that, two things popped into my head. One was the fact that you were being obedient in your creative life,
Yes.
realizing that there was another line of that. It wasn't just, I want to sing, I want to act. It was, hey, God, you're asking me to go in another area. Coaching and helping people and teaching is not the same as the actual doing the thing, right?
Yes.
So I was
Right.
gonna, so that was one lane. But the other part that I really love that you said is that you didn't want it to be just about that. And there's a phrase that I've been really kind of like, it's been resonating in my spirit. I think I said it on
Hmm.
another podcast that people ask if you are a creative, right? And they say that's your
Hmm.
identity. And I'm very careful about that because I
Right.
don't think God's like the first thing you are to me is a singer, an actor, like you said, not a human doing, right?
Right.
First, we're a soul, we're just loved because we're just his children. And then he's on top of that, hey, by the way, you have this gifting or this talent, but it's not who you are. And so I said
Hmm.
on this other podcast that creativity is not who I am, it's how I express who I am. And that's what phrase popped into
Yes.
my head when you said that. Like you express who you are through all these other things, but it's not who you are.
Hmm.
And I think that's why you and I connect so deeply on the holistic part because we
Yes.
both are saying to our people or to our audiences that you're not just a singer, actor, creative. You are a person that God made individually just for that. And then on top of that, like you said in those sessions, it seems like what you do is that you bring out the connection, which again is something I love.
Yes.
You bring out the connection between the creative and their creator.
Yes. Absolutely.
I love
Absolutely.
it. Oh gosh. Okay, so
Hmm.
now I got to ask you some questions about this whole tea coffee thing. Like, where did that?
Yes.
Because it sounds like it's a dope name. Number one, if you're not looking at it, it's coffee with a K. Okay, so get that part right.
Yeah.
So tell me where the
Uh-huh.
genesis of the podcast and this go,
Okay.
like, because there's got to be a backstory that we got to
There
learn
is
about.
definitely a backstory. Okay, so like Coffee Sips Tea, the podcast, that started back in 2018. I came home from work. I was exhausted. I was burnt out. I was working in HR at that time. And I'm just like, I just picked up my phone. I started recording and having fun, like just jamming. I was just singing songs, playing around. And all of a sudden I just started recording episodes and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna really put this out there because who am I like to really,
I
to
feel
be
you.
broadcasted? I don't believe that I would ever be doing something like that. I never was saying to myself, oh boy, gee, I want to be a podcaster. No, that's not what happened. I was really just doing that for fun. And it was kind of just in a way another level of expression, number
Okay.
one. And then it's just kind of sharing my commentary of what was happening in my daily life, like my frustrations. And then I was just like, maybe this could be a podcast, maybe not. And so I did keep that content to myself because, and that's why you can hear in the beginning episodes, they're very raw, like very underproduced. They're just very like in your face. And that's because it's just started off like that, just very raw, just who I was, where I was in my life back in 2018. And then 2 years later, I get these tickets to go to PodFest. Shout out to Mr. Chris Kermitzos.
Yep.
And yeah, and he was just telling people like start ugly, and he gave out the book. I still have the copy. And lo and behold, I was the leader of my group. I literally just flew in off the airplane, right, to Orlando, Florida, had my suitcase, had
Let's
my
say
jacket.
that you said 2022, so let's remind everybody what happened
Yeah.
1 month later. I believe that Podfest, because I missed that one. I went to the virtual one after that during the
Hmm.
pandemic when everything was shut down. But you made it in. God had it for you to
Yeah.
make sure you were there in person.
You guys, I didn't have no money to my name, nothing. I literally came off of this airplane with just my luggage, my jacket, that's it. And they made me the leader of that table, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, what am I going to tell these people? And then finally, the question came around to me like, who are you? What's the name of your podcast? Where can we find you? And I'm like, hi, my name is Nye. I don't know what the title of my podcast is. I have some pre-recorded episodes. I'm thinking of calling it, Coffee Sips Tea or whatever. And they were just like, just release it. What are you waiting for? Just release it into the atmosphere. And whatever happens, it just happens. It doesn't matter. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna release it. I'm not gonna, play around with this. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this is an act of worship to God.
Mm.
And people can receive it how they want to. And that's what I did. I went home off of that. And yes, you're right. That was when the pandemic had first started and nobody was really taking it that seriously. And it didn't really make headlines. It wasn't that big just yet. So we were just like, we're tired of hearing about Corona. Like, don't talk about it. And we would just give each other fist bumps and stuff. So when I got or elbow bumps, I got
Yeah,
home,
yeah.
I pressed
6 minutes
upload.
like, hey y'all, say bye.
Yeah, we was just like, okay, because we don't really know what this is about. And so I went home, I literally pressed upload. I started uploading episodes and then I started recording more and things just took off from there. It was just a whirlwind. And I was just like, okay, Father God, I hear you. Maybe this could be a thing. So here I am.
I
like
love this story.
three,
This is
four
what
years later.
somebody needs to hear this every time we have these type of interviews where someone like you shares, because I have the exact same story when it comes to my release of my book. When I went to a convention with, couldn't even have gas, didn't have enough gas in the car to make it. Like we were like,
Mm,
we got there, that thing was below the E by the time we got to Atlanta to go to this conference back in 2016 to release my book. Because I was like, God, you
mm-hmm,
want me to be at this conference? This was one of my mentors that was running the conference. I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna give it to him. And
mm-hmm.
you were just working on, just you're really like running on faith. Like, and I think
Yes.
so much of this has to do with us getting out of the way. It sounds like you had to get out of the way of your fear sitting at that table. I've been at those same
Mm-hmm.
tables, right, at Podfest. Everybody's so welcoming, and yet the fear
Yes.
is, I don't belong. What do I say?
Yes.
What do you say to somebody else that, especially if you're coaching them, who feels that fear, who's like, I either everybody's doing it, I don't belong, I'm not talented enough, I don't have a name yet, I don't have a platform. So, what do you say to those people now that you've overcome? Like, how do you help them do that same
Yes.
thing?
And honestly, fear is the opposite of faith. So you have to remember to, like, I do everything from a faith-based approach. I would be a bit of a hypocrite if I'm trying to do it from a fear-based approach.
Yeah,
Like, that would not be who I was. So I would tell anybody who's trying to overcome fear and anxiety and all of those things and those doubts, I would say pray about it and just do it anyway, and you'll be surprised. And every day you are going to get better. You're going to continue to improve because that's all you can do is just continue to improve. You see what works, what's not working for you, what you want your sound to be like, what you don't want your sound to be like. Like, there's no right or wrong way to doing life, to being a creative, or living your life creatively. There's no right or wrong way to it. It just is. So, um, that's the only thing I would say. Because it's really also some people have showed up in these sessions and they're like, one thing I would want to get over is confidence, like lack of confidence,
yeah,
right? And that can, like, these sessions are empowering. So we were made to have a spirit of power, of love, and a sound
sound
mind.
mind. Yeah,
Yeah. So if you're just single mindedly making this decision, you're going to be empowered to continue on. And then you can use that lesson, that testimony to empower and encourage other people.
100%. And I love the fact
Mm-hmm.
that when we talk about this, we're always talking about that being a two-way street.
Yeah.
This is what I mean by that. You said, like, we have a spirit of love, we have a spirit of power, sound mind, but guess who was telling him that? Like, Paul was telling Timothy that. Like, he needed to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time, apparently, Timothy was not feeling powerful. He was not feeling,
Yes.
he was operating in that fear place. So it's always this
Mm-hmm.
two-way street where it's like, it's okay if you feel that way,
Mm-hmm.
but there's somebody on the other side saying, no, hey, I've been through it, I've done it, you can make it, and God's going to send you those people. But you got to be willing to, like you said at the beginning, they were open to you coaching them, your
Yeah.
clients are, and saying, hey, I don't know it, but she's doing it, I don't know what to do, but
Right.
he's doing it. And that's why community is so powerful. Tell me a little bit what you mentioned, because you said this earlier about the people that you didn't expect to open up to you in your podcast. You said earlier when we were talking, I want the audience to hear it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you may have just said, "Oh, okay, God, whoever," but apparently you're building some relationships and having influence beyond what you
Yeah.
believed at the beginning. I think that's going to help somebody else if they hear that.
Yeah. God started sending like TV personalities, a few celebrities my way. Some of them were A-list, believe it or not. And the one thing that they all had in common was they were open-minded, right? No, even if they didn't believe what I believe, they were open to like what I was talking about. So it's also like deeper than me just being a podcaster and having that platform. It's also, I'm proclaiming the gospel. It
Yeah,
is evangelical in nature, right? Even if you don't think you are still doing a work of of an evangelist. It's just taking on a different form. And I love that expression. I love that God is permitting me to give that expression and that the people, they are open to that. And they share a little bit of their faith too, where they are in their faith journey. There's no right or wrong way to doing faith journey. It's just like, do you believe? Like, tell me more about that. What has that been like for you, your spiritual path? I really want to know. And they get to encourage other people in their walk. So I'm like, I know Jesus. If you want to know about him, cool, that's great. But like, if you're not on the Jesus path, I want to know, like, what is it about your journey, that you're on, like, that's different? Or what is your faith walk like for you? I don't want to like condemn you. I don't really want to judge you. I'm really just trying to understand and
Yeah.
like have a dialogue around that. So, and I love that people are open to talking about faith because they're seeing, like, I'm not coming on here like condemning you and I'm saying you're gonna go here and here and whatever. I'm not against you. I really just I'm seeking to understand. And maybe that's what it is about the platform they like, that they can be vulnerable and open up and just share that part of themselves to them. Like it's really like a whole individual. They embrace all parts of their selves, of their lives. So I thank God every day. And I'm just like, okay, well, I even had to say to myself, there has to be something that they feel is missing in their lives if they're talking to little old me. And you know what I'm saying?
I know what you mean. I didn't want to.
Yeah, like
I
there's a
was about to call
point.
you on that, but yes, the humility in
Yeah.
that is I think, and I've had the same feeling when I see people on. Again, this is the. It's not the humble brag. It's giving God glory, right? But
Yeah.
when you realize, like you said, little old me, I don't have this credential, that credential, this person. But I think what you realize, what you just said is, it's not
Hmm.
about your accomplishments or what you have. It's about what God has to share through you, and he'll
Right.
pick whoever he wants to pick, and we have to be careful not to get in his way, because then that blocks
Yeah.
the blessing for somebody else, because we keep looking at ourselves like, no, I'm not the person, we're the Moses, like, no, God, don't use me. Meanwhile, there's
Yeah.
2 million Israelites that are literally like waiting for you to step forward and let God use you. So
Amen.
yeah, so I love the fact that you're humble about that, but no, I get it, like, don't,
Yeah.
you're not
No,
shrinking yourself, but you're
I'm
giving.
not, yeah, I'm not like downplaying myself or like shrinking. It's not even a humble brag. It's like I am deeply, sincerely humbled
Yes.
by
Yes.
this life. Like, who would have ever thunk, right? That he would take somebody like me. Yes, I've done stuff in the past, but it has never been anything on this level
Got it.
to where people are like, I want to know more about Jesus. Like, I really, or they, some people say Yahashua, I had somebody the other day telling me about, oh yeah, his name is not Jesus, it's really
Yeah, yes, yeah, the Hebrew,
Yahashua.
right? Yes, well, yeah,
He was a Hebrew Israelite and he was talking to me and I was like, okay, brother, like I'm listening. And that's the thing. People are sharing their faith. It's not taboo in that setting. It doesn't have to be taboo. Because if you don't have faith or belief in something, then how could you go about your day-to-day life?
yeah, yeah.
You know?
It's exactly that conversation. I believe that before there's ever conversions, we could talk
Mm-hmm.
either in ministry or in sales. There's
Right.
never a conversion without a conversation. The conversation has to start it. Jesus met the woman at the well, started a conversation. Didn't get to all the stuff about her husbands and none of that. Like, it started with, can I have a drink of water? Something as simple as a basic need of life, right? So I believe what you're doing is you're saying to creatives, people like you and like me, do you want a cup of water? Do you want something? Is there something you need? And like you said, if you get to the point where your light shines and they ask, that's great. But our first call is to love people. That's our first call. And
Amen.
you've done an amazing job of that. Like, I'm just so impressed by, again, your sincerity. That's what I believe I'm hearing and feeling from you, is the
Yeah.
sincere faith that you have. And clearly God's using it to shine a light for people. So I love it. I cannot wait to share this with more people. We're going to be connecting more often. We got to, but we can't go
Oh,
too long tonight. We got to get them a little bit
okay.
like a part two or a reason to go come back. So
Okay.
if you want to give one last word of advice, this is the one I'd love to share with people. What
Yes.
would you tell somebody who
I will.
is where you were? Like if they were
Mm,
2018, they're oh, I'm just playing around. Like take yourself back to there and talk to yourself. But
mm,
someone is where you were at, right? But now
right.
so talk to that person that is where you were. What would you say to yourself back then?
I would say, Talitha, like, get up.
I don't know. Wow.
What the Holy Spirit said to me. Yeah, get up. You're not gonna die. You're gonna live. God wants you to live. So get up, take up whatever is in your hand, right? Or what's in your house and use it. Use that gift. Because we all have a spiritual gift. And believe it or not, that's going to be your way to connect with others in this world.
Beautifully said. I love this so much. Call me coffee. I didn't call you anything
Yes.
else. Call me coffee.
Yes, he said
You
the whole
I said the
thing.
whole thing. There's a yes. Just
Yes.
go listen to the podcast and you'll understand why it's important that I said it exactly the way I said it. But thank you
Yes.
so much for being a part of the show. This has been a blessing. Oh, and make sure to tell them if they're old school and they didn't click the link, tell them how they can follow you, how they can find you online.
Yeah, you can find me on my one of my handles, Honey99. Some people call me Honey, that's fine. And then my other handle is Coffee Ole, if you want to get a little more personal. I'm very responsive, very approachable. And if you want to start booking an espresso coaching call to see what is your kingdom purpose, go ahead and book today. Book a hot session today. Go to TL dot page/hot sessions. So simple, so easy.
Awesome. I'm sure they're going to check it
Yep.
out. My friend, this has been a blessing. Thank you so much for being a
Thank
part of
you.
the God and Gig Show. We'll do it again sometime real soon. My friend, thank you for watching this episode. If that blessed you, you got to make sure that you stay connected with this community and this channel so that you can get more where that came from. We're sharing great interviews, tactics, strategies, mindsets, lifestyle choices. Everything is going to help you become a totally confident creative. And don't miss an episode of the God and Gig Show. If you are staying connected to our channel, you'll be able to find us anytime we release new episodes. And you can check out some of our archives of almost 200 episodes now that we've shared over the last few years. Make sure you check out one of the suggestions right now because it's probably perfect for you to continue to develop as a creative. And continue to stay connected with us because we're here to help you become the creative that God created you to be. We'll see you in the next episode.